We've all seen it. Graduation cards, coffee mugs, gym walls. Jeremiah 29:11 is arguably the most quoted verse in the modern world. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. It sounds like a personal guarantee for a promotion, a spouse, or a smooth life. But here's the problem. If you read this verse as a personal promise for immediate success, you're missing the most powerful part of the message. Because when these words were first written, the people hearing them weren't at a graduation party. They were in a war zone. To understand the plans, we have to understand the pain. This wasn't a spoken sermon, it was a letter. Jeremiah 29 starts with a specific address. It's sent from Jerusalem to the exiles in Babylon. These were people who had watched their city burn. They were the brain drain, the leaders, the craftsmen, and the priests, who had been forcibly dragged 700 miles away from home to live as refugees in a pagan empire. In their world, being away from Jerusalem meant being away from God's presence. They were traumatized, hopeless, and desperate for a way out. And right then, fake news started to spread. False prophets were telling the exiles, "Don't worry, God is going to snap his fingers and bring us home in 2 years." Before God says, "I know the plans," he gives them a set of instructions that must have felt like a punch in the gut. He tells them, build houses, plant gardens, get married, have kids, increase in number. Wait, why? Because God tells them the truth. You aren't going home anytime soon. You're going to be there for like 70 years. Think about that. For most of the people reading that letter, they would die in Babylon. Their children might die in Babylon. God was telling them to prosper in the middle of their punishment. He even tells them to seek the peace and prosperity of the city, to pray for their captors. Now we get to verse 11. When your Bible says, plans to prosper you, the Hebrew word is shalom. In 2026, we think of prosperity as a bank account or a lack of stress. But shalom is about wholeness. It's the idea of being complete, even when your circumstances are broken. When God says, I know the plans, he is using the word machashavot. It means thoughts or intentions. God is saying, I haven't forgotten you. While you are sitting in the dirt of Babylon, my mind is still full of intentions for your wholeness. This isn't a promise that the exile will end tomorrow. It's a promise that the exile has a purpose. Unpopular opinion. The you in Jeremiah 29:11 is plural. In the original language, God isn't talking to an individual. He's talking to a community. Why is that better? Because if it's just a personal promise for me, then the promise fails the moment I get sick or lose my job. But if it's a promise for the people of God, it means that even if I personally suffer, God's grand plan for redemption is unstoppable. It means that our hope isn't tied to our current season, but to God's history. The exiles did return, the temple was rebuilt, and eventually, from that lineage, the Messiah was born. The future and a hope wasn't just a 401k, it was Jesus. So can you still claim this verse? Yes, but claim it for what it actually is. Jeremiah 29:11 is the ultimate anti-burnout verse. It tells us that God is working in the long game. If you are in a season of exile, maybe you've lost something, or you're in a place you never wanted to be. This verse says, build, plant, pray. God's plans for your shalom are deeper than your current problems. He isn't a vending machine for a quick exit. He is a father who stays with you in the waiting. Next time, we're going to talk about the archaeology of the exile, what life was actually like for those Jews in Babylon. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the history behind the hope.